morning, everyone. Happy Friday, happy Forum, happy end of week 7, and we're turning into this semester's really flying by. I'm Michelle Hirschberger, and I work to plan forums, and it is with great delight that I'm here this morning to introduce to you my friend and colleague, Jim Mason. One of the things I love so much about Hesston is I think that faculty and staff, that we see each other as equals, and we know that we're all in this ministry and that we all try to work together, and Jim epitomizes that, and I'm so appreciative. Jim Mason is a Hesston College graduate, a proud one, and also has a degree in animal science from K-State. So Jim is one who loves animals, works with animals, horses, horse racing. I also know that he loves Jack Russell Terriers, because I also have a Jack Russell Terrier, and he's got some of the best dogs on earth. Jim has been working here for 20 years, and I also think that's a really important and wonderful thing. And he is here representing what we call the Emergency Operations Planning Committee. And that is a committee that is concerned about your health and safety and how to do the very best and smartest things we can in the midst of an emergency, should it happen. So this is an important forum for us to listen to. You're going to hear some fascinating things. And please help me welcome Jim Mason.
Okay. So why are we here? We're going to talk about some weather, and I'm going to really try not to make it as boring as like your 8th grade health class was. All right, we're going to talk about stuff that's important, and I'm going to give you some of my actual experiences, and we're going to center on the actual tornado that hit Hesston back in 1990. But we're going to start out talking about an alley, and if you could start the first slide, Luke. Should we talk about a dark alley? Is there much to talk about there? Probably not. Oh, Luke. It was working so well. Bowling alley, place for fun. We're going to talk about, Tornado Alley. Okay, so, and some things that are happening with Tornado Alley is, this is a geographical area where the weather conditions are just right for tornadoes to spawn and become quite vicious and large. And you can see the old Tornado Alley, which we're right smack dab in the middle of. And then you can see what's happening and has been happening for about the last 5 to 7 years. That alley is not really an alley anymore. It's more of a large blob in the middle of the country. Because a lot of serious weather now doesn't mean we're going to still revisit what happened in Hesston and what we need to be prepared for. Seems to be migrating to the right. And I bring this up because a lot of you are from those states. A lot of you are from Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, etc. Of course, Oklahoma gets it no matter what. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, that area. But it's important to note now that this alley is a larger area. And so the other thing I'll tell you is we're going to do some review at the end and see if you're paying attention, retaining, and I've got a big bag of chocolate here. We're going to have some questions, so little details. If you remember, I'll bring it up at the end. Okay, let me see if this works now. This really doesn't need a lot of introduction, but it's a 5-minute video about the tornado that actually came right through the middle of Hesston, Kansas.
I was outside when the first siren sounded, and we were looking towards the southwest, and all we could see at that point was a big black cloud. It looked more like a thundercloud or something, but all the clouds around it were white. The closer that cloud came to us, the more defined it got, and the more it looked like a tornado, till pretty soon it was a funnel cloud. And it was a sight I've never seen before. And about that time, second second siren went off, and we were told to go downstairs to the basement because we'd be safer there. It was coming right after college at that time, and we were all a little bit nervous.
I kept coming out of the basement to go to the back porch and look over the western skies, because it was quite a sight as this storm was in motion. And when it got to maybe half a mile away, it became very apparent to me that it was going to hit us. And so I went to the basement where Gene and Sarah were, and we huddled between the washer and the dryer, put pillows and blankets over our heads, and began praying and hugging each other, asking God to preserve our lives.
Yeah, we were eating supper, and we had the TV going. We were getting ready to eat supper, and we had the TV going. We saw the tornado warnings out, but you know how you kind of just ignore those things and go on. Renee happened to look out the window and just saw this ugly-looking gray cloud come out, and she says, "Dean, come look at this." And went and looked at it, and by that time it really had taken shape, and it had gotten closer to town. And so she immediately hollered at the kids and went on downstairs, and I had been videotaping earlier, and so I had the camera all ready, and so I went on out on the front porch of our house, which is 1.5 miles east of town here, and just shot the tornado as it was going through town.
All of a sudden you could hear the glass going first, and then all of a sudden you could hear like just big bangs, wood flying. I'm sure that's what it was. Like it was just noise, and you could still hear part of the wind, but it wasn't. You couldn't hear the loudness because it was so noisy because everything was breaking. So we thought, oh no, you know. And all of a sudden it was about two minutes, and it was quiet. And at that point we just decided to let's go see. It must be over. It went so fast. And so we went upstairs, and we just couldn't believe our eyes. I mean, we just stood there. It's not true. I can't be. You know, like, I mean, the place looked devastated.
Just like a plane had flown over loaded with garbage of all kinds and dumped it in a path. And, cars and trucks from neighbors, parts of houses, clothes, etc., just all kinds of things strewn all over.
And so, believe it or not, in the middle of all the grief and the shock, there was a great sense of gratitude immediately that our neighbors were beginning to appear out of their homes. And then the sense of bonding that took place as we greeted each other and recognized the fact that we were safe is a moment I will never forget.
It really scared me to think of what happened, what this tornado actually did, and because we were okay. And coming out of Herb Hall, I was like, oh, everything looks all right. And then when I thought everything was okay, people were walking upstairs and seeing that they had nothing left of their house. And I thought that must have been a really scary feeling to walk upstairs and see the sky above them.
But so that still gives me some chills whenever I watch that. And my own personal story is, at that moment, I was in Wichita, Kansas, working downtown, and I was busy in the basement working on some work that I had to do the next day, and one of my coworkers came down and said, hey, my dad just called and said Heston took a direct hit from a tornado. I hadn't heard anything. And then I had my wife at home and a 6-year-old boy and a twin 2-year-old boys, and it was like, oh no, I hope they're all right. The best news about that whole day was I was able to make a phone call and reach my wife. And she was in the backyard seeing if we had any house damage. And we talked briefly, and everybody was all right, traumatized, but okay. And then we lost phone. And then I didn't talk to him again until I got home that night about 9. But we're going to centrally talk about this. This really happened right here in this town. Back then, there wasn't the radar we have now. There wasn't weather apps. There was no kind of knowledge, except I do believe the tornado siren did go off with enough advanced warning because it was a clear day that people could see it from quite a distance, and so people were able to take cover. There were still 2 casualties, 2 deaths out of this tornado, and then yeah, it was an F5. There's a Fujita scale which rates tornadoes on their severity and how long their winds are, and this was an F5, which means it had 250 to 300 mile an hour winds. So those exploding houses you saw on that's the reason why. It was just an amazing, just a very amazing, surreal day that I remember everything. My wife was going to fry chicken, and she had the oil, hot oil, and she turned it off and took the boys downstairs. She was curious enough because we had some mobile guys, sort of like storm chasers, sort of ahead of their time. And he said, I'm looking at the biggest tornado I've ever seen, and it's heading right towards Heston College, which my wife was working at the time. But fortunately, kind of at the last minute, that tornado hit a microburst of air and shifted and went north, completely missed Heston, and then turned right again and went through. Krupp Lumber was destroyed, and the Pizza Hut, that was the path it took. The Pizza Hut was gone also, and you'll see some pictures about that. So we'll just go through some slides here. This is for knowledge. This is just, this is some learning and training. They can occur anywhere in the United States at any time of the year. But we talk about it now because primarily they happen in the springtime. March, April, May is the more common time. This is very important. Tornado weather can be hot, sticky days with southerly winds, and that's exactly how that day was when the tornado hit. And then a cold front comes down from Canada, and when those two hit, that's what causes things. They occur mostly between 3 and 7 in the afternoon, and that's fairly consistent with all the tornadoes we've had here, except for Greensburg, Kansas, which was an F5, and it hit at 10:30 p.m. And that was a really tough one because people really didn't know what hit them. It was very late at night, and our radar wasn't very sophisticated then. Most cases, they move from westerly, southwest to the northeast. They travel 25 to 40 miles per hour. An average width is 400 yards. They can be as wide as a whole mile. Instead of they can just be straight up and down, which is basically what the Heston tornado was. It's usually 10 to 40 miles long with an average length of 16 miles. I'm just going to push through these pretty fast. This is the picture of the tornado crossing the interstate. Way up on the right, you see the arrow? That used to be the home field for our softball team up until 2 years ago, and it really took a hit in that tornado. Once again, this apartment complex that lost everything on top. Cars are done. That is the Heston Pizza Hut. They all went into the walk-in cooler and survived it there. Some interesting things, a piece of plywood pushed into that house. That's a stick pushed into that tree stump there. That's sort of what North Weaver Street looked like. This is Krupp Lumber, and right next to it is the apartment complex where Deb Hebert, who is my administrative assistant, was living at the time. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Deb. What was your single most vivid memory of that day?
I think the helplessness that you felt afterwards. You know, I had no place to live, and I had no way to reach my parents, my family. And because by then phones, you could not get phone calls in, we didn't have no cell phones and stuff. So just knowing you had no way of reaching anyone.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about something that is important. Because we do have, from time to time, this happens. This is still a normal occurrence here in this part of the country. Tornado watch and a tornado warning. And the next slide is a video that is very succinct and really spells it out. So I'd ask you to pay attention to this.
What's the difference between a watch and a warning? I'm Storm Sheet Meteorologist Jason Myers, and knowing the difference between those two very similar sounding words can save your life. A watch is issued when conditions are likely for a severe weather event to occur. This can range anywhere from a danger to your tomato plants like a freeze watch or a high wind watch to something that can be a danger to you and your family like a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch. The Storm Prediction Center, or SPC, is responsible for issuing severe thunderstorm and tornado watches for large areas if it looks like we could see either of those in the next few hours. Once a watch is issued, this is the time to get prepared and have a plan in place if something does happen. A warning is issued when severe weather is imminent or occurring. Each of the local National Weather Service offices issues warnings for their specific region. If there's a warning for your area, that's when you need to take action immediately, especially if it's a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. So when there's a watch, watch out and get your plan ready. But when there's a warning, take action immediately.
Okay, quick review. A watch is when conditions are favorable for something bad to happen. You won't hear sirens or anything when it's a watch. A warning is when the event is imminent or actively occurring. And that is also when the city of Heston will do their sirens. One thing that happened back in the Heston tornado days is we had sirens all the time whenever there was any kind of possible thunderstorm. People got very complacent, paid little attention to it, sirens went off all the time. The Heston tornado, there was fewer casualties because it was such an obvious, it was a very bright sunny day, and the tornado cloud was so obvious that people took cover and weren't complacent. But now, as a result of complacency, our city will only run a siren when there's an actual eyewitness by a storm spotter of a tornado, or if radar indicates that there is a tornado coming and danger's imminent. So if you hear a siren, for sure that's when you take cover. And don't get in your car and get ready to chase it. Take cover. Okay. Also, if there is a tornado warning, the college will send out a text to each and every one of you giving you that information. It's called Alert Now. You should all be signed up. If you're not sure if you're signed up, contact Deb, but we're pretty certain we've got everybody signed up, right? And then once again, when the city has imminent danger, the city of Heston will sound the sirens. Now, this is another one that I'm really going to recommend. I'm not even half as tech savvy as anybody sitting out there, but I have a weather app on my phone. And it's set on Follow Me, and it's from one of the local news stations in Wichita. It follows me around. If I go 3 states away, it'll still tell me what the weather is right there. It gives me notifications. It can be a real pest. You can silence some things, but it's very helpful. And I really recommend it in this day and age, given that technology is something that you all understand much better than my generation. I'm going to give you some examples. This is Channel 10 Cake. This is Channel 12, Storm Team 12. That's what I have. They're probably sort of the preeminent station in this area. They're all free apps. And then Channel 3 has got an app, and they happen to be the most accurate. At least they've won award the last 2 years for having the most accurate weather forecasts. So I highly recommend that. I think it's important. And if you don't take anything away from this, find some room on your phone to put a weather app on. Okay. This represents where tornado shelters can be in case you have to evacuate and find your shelter. And most of you probably are aware of this, but if you're not, on the back of the door to your room, there should be one of these screwed right into the door. And it should actually show you your room, and you can be able to figure out the proximity of the closest. Both fire exits and tornado shelters are on that map. So familiarize yourself with that, recognizing that going inside in a building, especially Herb Hall, which is really built well, well, Kaufman Court is too. Just familiarize yourself with that as we get closer to tornado season. This is Kaufman Court, same thing, restrooms, that's where you go. I guess if you had enough time, you might want to go to that lower level below CMOD. That would be even safer. And then each one of our buildings has diagrams like this right by the front doors as you walk in, our teaching buildings. So if in doubt, again, probably the restrooms are internal, but this will also help you find out where you need to go. Quick overview, tornadoes from last year. This is the irony. We're talking about this, still think it's important, but tornadoes in Kansas are actually at kind of a low ebb in the whole process. Last year we had 17 tornadoes for the whole season, which was an all-time low. I'm not sure, let's see. This year I think we had 30 some. I show this because we're in Harvey County. That's the littlest county in the state of Kansas. That's where we reside. But you can see just to the left and lower left, there was 2 tornadoes just last year, just one county away from us. So it can still happen. And weather is really changing. It can also change back to where more, but you can see in past years, some of the tornadoes, 300 to 400 was not uncommon, and we're down in the 30s. A lot of those are shifting into other states like Illinois, Iowa, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Okay, 3 big things. I know you're all going to be going to lunch when you're done, and none of you will probably remember my name, but I'm that old guy that talked to you about weather. And I would hope that you would realize that you are living in Tornado Alley, and so it is important, a lot more than other parts of the country, to be aware of what can happen here, and that table isn't meant to scare you, but to show you what really can happen. Tornado watches, once again, conditions are favorable if it's a watch. Nothing's really happening yet, but it's possible. A tornado warning, the severe weather event is either imminent or actively occurring. That's when you take cover. And then finally, use your technology. You're all very capable there. Install a weather app, could save your life, and it will keep you safe and informed. Does anybody have any questions? Because I have a bunch now. Okay. All right. Not quite sure how I'm going to do this, so you're going to have to speak up. Name 3 states that are located in the new expanded Tornado Alley. Somebody give me that? Anybody remember?
Colorado, Kansas, Missouri.
Actually, Colorado is not. It is? Huh. Okay, I'm gonna give it to you. All right, here's the next one. If the city sirens go off in Hessen, what does it mean?
Okay, Nicholas has got it.
It's a tornado warning, and you have to take shelter.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's
A
it.
tornado means what?
A tornado
I'm sorry, a
means
tornado
what?
watch means what?
Tornado watch. He says conditions are possible, might happen.
Okay, all right. Okay, a tornado warning means what?
Take cover now.
Very good.
Very good. You got it.
Okay. What is the strongest Fujita scale number in rating a tornado?
An F5.
Okay. You got it. Okay, typically when do tornadoes occur? What time frame during the day?
3 and 7 p.m.
Okay. In the event of the tornado warning, how will the college notify you? Somebody said it.
Text is the right answer, right? Is that
She
what you
did
said?
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a couple here.
Okay.
Okay, now, because, you know, the most famous movie that ever featured Kansas had a tornado in it, name the little dog that Dorothy owned in The Wizard of Oz.
Toto.
Toto.
Yes.
She's going to get you something.
Okay, now, this might stump everybody. We'll see. Who was the actress that played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz?
Ooh. Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. There you go.
Oh, man.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you. Remember what you heard. Appreciate it.